Call the roll.
Mayor Jorgensen.
Present.
Commissioner Wygant.
Present.
Commissioner Kaler. Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present. Well, we have four of us today. That is a quorum. Today is Wednesday, July 17th. The time is 9:30, and it's time for our regularly scheduled City Commission meeting. We'll start the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by Rick Oglesby.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Would you bow with me this morning, please? The Bible tells us in James 1:5, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. So, Lord, we come today and we are asking for your wisdom to these who govern our city. We ask that they impart fairness from the top of the economical scale to the most in need. We ask that you protect our police officers, our firefighters, and our other city workers. We pray for businesses to grow and new ones to come and provide jobs that will sustain families and break the cycle of poverty for many. We pray, Lord, that you would pour out your blessing on this city and provide needed resources and revenue. We pray for a spirit of unity, that we can come together as a community, that neighbor might help neighbor, that we might agree that we don't agree on everything, but we don't have to be disagreeable, that we might work on the things that we can do together. And help us, Lord, to make this city an even better place to live, work, raise our families, and retire. And all these things we ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. That moves us on to the consent agenda, items 6 through 7, which includes the approval of our agenda today and appointments to the Board of Zoning Appeals of Justin Paddock. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner?
I'll make the motion to approve items 6 and 7.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve items 6 and 7, the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That moves us on to the regular agenda, public comments. Do we have anyone registered this morning?
No one's registered.
Okay, thank you. I'll dispense with reading of the paragraph under public comments and move on to declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication that they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Okay. We'll move on to new business. Item 10.
Proclamation recognizing Access Awareness Day on July 26, 2019.
This proclamation celebrates the 29-year anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was passed to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities. Kyle Trendle, Chairman of the Accessibility Advisory Board, will accept the proclamation, which will be read by Commissioner Eric Crowley.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Excuse me. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed on July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities, excuse me. And whereas the City of Ottawa of the State of Kansas affirms the principles of equality, accessibility, and inclusion are essential for ensuring that all community members have access to opportunities and the ability to fully participate in community life as set forth for the State of Kansas and embodied in the ADA, the laws of the State of Kansas and the ordinances of Ottawa, Kansas. And whereas numerous organizations in the City of Ottawa and the State of Kansas work with constituents and communities to bring forth the promise of hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA, and whereas the City of Ottawa formed an Accessibility Advisory Board in 2013 with current members Ruth Ann Wasco, Casey Brady, Marsha Hermrich, Chris Patton, Amy Bollinger, Kyle Trindle, Lori Ann Bean, Josh Robinson, and John Fritz to enhance the accessibility efforts in Ottawa. And whereas accessibility should be part of all aspects of community life, physical, social, and economic, including employment, transportation, recreation, housing. And whereas we all have a role to play ensuring that our communities are as accessible and inclusive as possible. And whereas approximately 12.5% of the population has a disability, which often impacts their ability to effectively access services and shopping. And whereas July 26, 2019 celebrates the 29th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act with Access Awareness Day. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby recognize the rights of all individuals with disabilities and the importance of ensuring that they have access to the opportunities that are important to them and that give their lives meanings to all, observing July 26, 2019 as Access Awareness Day. In the City of Ottawa, signed this 17th day of July 2019 by our Mayor, Blake Jorgensen.
Thank you. Kyle, would you like to come forward and accept this proclamation? Get a photo op here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, for having us, as well as the city manager. As I stated earlier, our board has been in place since 2013, and I've been on that board since inception, and it's been an honor to be a part of that. Our primary goals is to review and see how the city is achieving the transition plan in the building and the facilities that the city's own, and we do that annually. We also try to do some training, yearly training, and this year we had Ray Petty, the director of the Kansas Great Plains Center, come in and talk with us and go over some issues with some of the buildings and some of the things that he'd be looking at when we have him walk through some of the buildings after we've done some of the projects. We have the plan for accessibility of the public events. We try to enhance that so we can give that information out when those come to town and want to have a public event, all the different things that they need to take advantage of, and some of the steps that they need to follow as well, just so they hit all the key points. So there are a few things, and we've done a tremendous amount over the last 5 to 6 years. A lot of the projects are small and don't get a lot of notoriety, but there are two that are coming up in the next 3 to 5 years that we really encourage the commission to look into. It will be some pretty significant fundings, but the Ottawa Memorial Auditorium, we're really looking at full accessibility with that building and the needs of an elevator in that facility. There are levels that aren't accessible, we'll say. And then the other one would be the Carnegie Building as well downtown, that we only have access to basically the main level with a lift from the outside. So those are a couple projects that we'll probably be talking to the city about, maybe making some presentations on of how we can do that. But again, I want to thank you for your guys' support and this proclamation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. We'll move on to item 11.
Request for approval of ordinance authorizing the issuance and delivery of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019A.
The principal amount of the bonds is $1,105,000. This ordinance also provides for the levy and collection of an annual tax to pay the principal and interest as the bonds come due. And we have Tyler Ellsworth with Kuchak Rock and David Arterberry with George K. Baum here to speak today.
Good morning. I've got a couple handouts here for you. You might have seen these before, but I thought I'd just spend a minute or two going over not just talking about the bond ordinance, but you have a couple of other action items related to the bonds and then the temporary notes that I thought I'd just kind of summarize all of it and answer any questions you might have about it. If you have any specific questions about the resolutions or ordinance, I'd refer to Tyler over here to address those. But basically, last week, the city took bids for $1,105,000 of general obligation refunding bonds. These are bonds that are being issued to refinance parts of two old bond issues that are being repaid by the city's electric system. And if you look at the handout that's got it's kind of the landscape profile, and it's got the little chart down at the bottom of it in blue and green, what you'll see here is the sort of the structure of the refunding bond issue. And that chart at the bottom, the blue bars show what the existing bond payments that the electric system is scheduled to make are, and then the green bars show what the payments will look like after the refinancing is completed. Specifically, what you see there is debt service in 2019 and 2020, this year and next year, is being reduced to help provide relief in your electric system. And those payments are being deferred out to years 2024 through 2027. With this restructuring, hopefully what you'll be able to do is build up your reserves this year and next year to create some more operating cushion in your utility. And in total, the amount of debt service relief this year and next year is about a little over $1.05 million. So hopefully that'll provide the cushion that you need. In addition to the refunding bonds, you also took bids for temporary notes to provide financing, construction period financing for sewer improvements to Proximity Park. And the principal amount of that was $2,015,000. On the other handout, you'll see the results of the bidding. For the bonds, we ended up getting 3 bids, and the best bid was submitted by Kansas State Bank out of Manhattan. And the rate that they were offering on all of the maturities of the bonds was 3%. We had originally predicted a rate of about 3.2%, so this came in a little under what we had originally predicted. On the temporary notes, you got a total of 4 bids, and the best bid was submitted by U.S. Bank. When you factor in some of the fees they were charging, their interest cost was 2.3%. So we've reviewed all of the bids, and they were mathematically correct, and there were certain terms and conditions that we needed to talk to U.S. Bank about, but we got all those ironed out. So we see no reason you wouldn't want to proceed with, using Kansas State Bank to purchase the bonds and U.S. Bank to purchase your notes. Be happy to answer any questions you might have about the projects, the financing structure. Again, I'll refer you to Tyler for any specifics about the legal documents you'd be asked to pass.
I just want to clarify that Kansas State used to be known as Kansas State Bank. Their legal name is KS State Bank from Manhattan. They're unaffiliated with the Kansas State Bank here in Ottawa. So, okay.
David, just to point out on the new reserve funds, on that, you're talking about that $1,050,000 figure. That would be the increased cost of this restructuring, or was that less
the total the cost of the restructuring on this table, the chart or the page with the table? If you look at there's a column sort of 2/3 the way across the sheet called savings or loss. You'll see there that the cost of doing the refinancing was about $231,000. That's the added amount of interest cost that the city will incur over the life of the bond issue because of the refinancing. But to the right of that, what I've attempted to do is to show that if the city takes those, the savings that it will achieve over the next 2 years, takes that $1.5 million that it will realize in reduced payments this year, next year, and sets that money aside to kind of create a new reserve, so to speak. If that reserve fund earns just 2% per year over the over the remaining life of the electric system's debt, going out to 2028, those earnings would be about $211,000. So that really almost entirely offsets the cost of doing the refinancing.
That's the difference between the 231 and the 211.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay, thank you.
But to clarify again, to set that $1 million aside, if we could set it aside, we wouldn't need these bonds.
Well, hopefully with the actions that you've taken in the electric system and costs and rates, hopefully with those adjustments, you will be able to come close to
Give us
breaking
some-
even in your operations.
Give us some cushion in the cash
Yeah.
flow anyway.
Yeah.
On the existing payments, do you know how much our interest rate is now?
Boy, I'd have to look, but I think most of the existing bonds, the interest rate is somewhere around the 3% range.
So we're
3%.
about the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not increasing the
Savings,
cost.
okay.
You're not increasing your interest rate on this borrowing. The reason there's the increased cost is you're deferring the principal payments for, 4 or
So
5
the-
years.
The only added benefit is that interest income of that predicted 2% possibility over the
Right.
first couple of years.
Right, yeah. And if the interest rates should happen to go up and you can earn more than that, then actually you're better off
Right.
than before.
Additional questions for Mr. Arterberry?
Well, I guess to clarify again, if we didn't do this, have we got it in the budget to make the payment for this year on the electric fund? And we would just run short of cash?
No, we're doing this because we need that breathing room to get through the year with the cash balance and electric.
Okay, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Is there a better way to explain?
No, I agree with that. We don't have the cash right now in the electric fund to support the payment if we did not defer
Okay.
in 19.
Okay, very good.
David, just to clarify, we don't actually get cash back, right?
Right.
We're restructuring.
Right, you just don't have the
Obligation.
$810,000 worth of payments that you would otherwise have this year. You still do have some debt payments, but it's going to be lowered by $810,000 this year.
Any further questions for Mr. Arterberry? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve item number 11 on our agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded as such. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Wygant?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Moves us on to item 12.
Request for approval of resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019A.
The principal amount of the bonds, again, is $1,105,000 to be used for sewer project at Proximity Park. And we have Tyler Ellsworth and David Arterberry to talk about this as well. Looks like Tyler's up.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I just have a small clarification, and that is that the principal amount of the bonds as described in the comments on the agenda are actually to proceed with the refunding that David just described, rather than the sewer project at Proximity Park. The sewer project is actually being financed with the proceeds of the temporary notes, which is item 13 on your agenda.
Okay. So instead of the 1.1 million, it's the 2,015,000.
The 1.1 million is correct for item 12 and the refunding bonds.
Okay.
At the end of that comment, instead of sewer project at Proximity Park.
Oh, okay.
That's
So
for refunding
my comments were wrong.
purposes.
Incorrect is on the
Correct,
agenda. Okay,
correct.
good. All right. Got you.
But with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Got it. Any questions for Tyler?
I don't think so.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'd move we approve item 12 on the bonds.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded as such. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygant?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Item 13.
Request for approval of resolution authorizing the issuance and delivery of $2,015,000 principal amount of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2019-1.
Changes were needed to update the terminology and definitions in this chapter following updates to stormwater management regulations in the municipal code last year.
Commissioners, I
Yes.
apologize to you. That's not the right wording for that.
Okay,
This is for the Proximity Park sanitary sewer. to finance the project, the sanitary sewer project, and then when we get to the end, USDA will take out those temporary notes and they will bond it out. So I apologize to you.
Okay. Yes, what he said. We have, Tyler, do you have anything to discuss on
nothing to
this? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner?
I'll make the motion to approve item 13 as on our agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution as described in item 13. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you. Item 14.
Request for approval of agreement with the Secretary of Transportation, Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, for sidewalk project on K-68.
And is this correct?
Yes.
Okay. The comments are, the project is funded through the Transportation Alternatives Program through KDOT. The total cost of construction is $439,313, and the City of Ottawa's contribution will be $87,862. And we have Wendy Lee here to discuss this item.
Good morning. We were really pleased earlier this year to be notified that we were going to receive this grant with the Department of Transportation. As you all recall, the Public Works Department had received funding last year or the year before to improve the intersection with pedestrian crossings and resignalization and to improve the geometrics of the intersection. This is kind of a second step, but a different funding. This is the Transportation Alternatives Funding, which is those things that enhance our network of roads. And in this case, we're talking about sidewalks and signage, as well as some landscaping. The primary expense is really for the sidewalks that go all the way up to where, when you're coming down K-68 headed west, when the road starts to move south. So it's really right about that junction where Logan and K-68 separate from each other. Some of the genesis of the desire for this project goes back some years, probably at least 10. As we have looked at different funding opportunities to improve access to our downtown. That's where some of it came from. The second part of it, though, is to add sidewalks that go west to Forest Park. And that has been a long-desired objective of the community to enhance our pedestrian and our children and our family access to our main Central Park, our swimming pool, Diamonds, the dog park, and our big investments we have in playgrounds and the disc golf over there. And so we were really thrilled with this. It also has a short extension of the Prairie Spirit Trail to Logan, or to K-68 actually. And so that is also kind of a way to make sure that people who may be coming to our community know where they can access that and are aware that we have trails. If you're not aware of the Prairie Spirit Trail, the fact that it is off a block-ish from Maine, maybe then you wouldn't know. And so we intend to do signage that would go out to I-35 to kind of call attention to sharing the road with cyclists, and then signage that would direct folks to the Prairie Spirit Trail right there on K-68. In addition, we hope to remove some medians, some of the concrete part of the median, not the curb and gutter, but the concrete part, to add landscaping as approved by the Department of Transportation. It won't be trees and it won't be high because that is still a highway, and we need to be sure that the vehicular access is safe as well, but we do hope to enhance that entire corridor. There's also a section of sidewalk I failed to mention from Maine going south in front of the Casey's and the Co-op that would connect then to Tecumseh. That's the only quadrant of that intersection of two arterial roads in our community that doesn't have a sidewalk going south or north. So that's a necessary area as well. When we talked with the Co-op, they said there's a lot of people who walk through this area. It's just not safe.
And that would be on the west side of Maine?
West side, thank you.
Okay.
Right in front of Co-op, yes.
All right.
Be happy to answer any questions or.
Questions or comments?
Would that conflict with any part of their driveway there?
Actually, they removed a driveway on
The
Main last year, and that was really when part of that opportunity presented itself. And then when we talked with them about it, they would like to enhance the safety of that area. And that's part of the reason they removed the driveway. They observed a number of unsafe turning and potential for accidents, given how many driveways, the fact that are going from a divided road down to an undivided 4-lane. People are changing rates of speed. And so really they're stepping forward, actually gave us an opportunity to put in a sidewalk. Otherwise, we probably would not have been able to do that without really asking them to close the driveway. But they had already determined that that's what they needed to do.
So that sidewalk will sit fairly close to the road?
It probably will, depending on, and they also agreed, though, that if we would need some easements, as have some of the other folks indicated, if the width of the right-of-way. We're right in the survey work collection of data right now, and so when we know where the boundaries are of all of that, then we'll have a better understanding of what the needs are.
Wendy, my office is on the north side of the building, the bank building where I work, and I have observed over the past several months several cars jumping that curb that
Yes.
was installed. Will there be a kind of a delineation indicating or paint or something that'll prevent cars from jumping that curb and the sidewalk?
Yeah, it was far more frequent at the beginning, and so we talked over with them some things that maybe we could do to call more attention to it. We were concerned over the winter in particular, but yeah, our behavior and the ways that we access things are difficult to change. For example, we also have had one-way signs on Walnut and First Street now for months, and people still continue to literally drive around barricades or to ignore the one-way right in front of someone and turn the wrong way. So we would just ask the community to be diligent in their attention to their driving. But we will continue to look at whether there's something we can put up there. I think particularly as we do that, maybe there's some additional things we can do about, maybe we have a crosswalk signage or some other things there, not so much to delineate a crosswalk, but to identify that pedestrians are in this area. So we will sure look at that, because I agree, we want to not have people driving through there. They've gone to a great effort with 6 inches, but we've talked about even some potted pots or something like that, which doesn't mean that somebody won't go over the curb, but they may suffer a little more damage. But sometimes that additional height helps people see it. But the state, again, has some concerns about how high you do things, so.
Or I suppose rocks or something installed.
Hopefully
There remains an
not quite
access off of the street, what is that street they're in?
Tecumseh. There is one at Tecumseh.
And it- Right there.
Yes. So if people turn on Tecumseh and then want to go north through the driveway, they can do that safely without jumping the curb.
But the correct way to enter the Casey's would be to go up to K68
Keokuk,
Highway, go
yes.
and enter on their
Go,
west entrance.
yes, go to, if you want to go to Casey's and you are northbound, you need to go to Keokuk, turn left in the left turn lane, go a half of a block and turn back south. That is the safe and proper way to access
It will
Casey's.
likely take about 2 extra minutes, but you might not tear up your car going over the curb.
That's true. That's true.
But we'll look at some other things, and maybe placing a rock there isn't a bad idea.
So if we approve this and funding and the engineering, construction, everything will start next summer, next spring?
So yeah, let's talk about that timing. So we are in design now. The idea would be that we have design complete by late fall and bid it out, and then we would anticipate construction next spring. If it takes longer for some of that, we actually thought we were a little bit behind, but then realized that the state hadn't sent us this agreement. So, but we have already begun the design process, and there's not as many property owners in this particular circumstance as there are, for example, when we did 15th Street. So there are some opportunities for us to catch back up and get on a normal schedule. But we would expect construction next year. And as you said, we have a smaller portion, and it is in the budget as well.
Well, I've noticed a lot of tentative pedestrians in that area not knowing where to go. They walk on top of the levee system all the way to the median, and I
Right.
think this will be a great enhancement for that area as we invite more people to walk, and this is a good way to go along with that
Yes, sir.
plan too, so.
And to bicycle in this area. Some
Well,
people
yeah.
feel comfortable. We want to remind the motorists to be wary of both the pedestrians and the cyclists through this entire area, because we are certainly encouraging this alternative transportation
no, I
for
think-
not just recreation. We
Right.
want people to do this because that is
Better
their
way to-
transportation method.
So this will be, okay, so this will be a sidewalk in town, we will be legally able to ride a bicycle on.
So the sidewalk is for the pedestrians. We will also install signage to remind the motorists that cyclists have the right to use a full lane of travel and
Yeah.
have forever.
Okay.
And that we expect that they will be there to call attention to the fact that they should be given that courtesy as if they were a vehicle.
Okay.
But we are extending the trail to the north.
And then we are extending the trail. You can ride
Yeah,
the
to the-
cycle
that's part
on
of
the
that where you-
trail.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And I appreciate very much too the cost. I mean, if we're just contributing 20%, and I know it's state funds involved, but locally, we're only costing us 20%. So it's a pretty good return on our
Yes.
investment, the way I look at it. So with that, I make the motion, we approve item 14.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agreement, approval of the agreement as described in item 14. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Weigand?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us on to item 15, which is a report by city manager.
I have nothing, Commissioner.
Okay. Item 16, reports by city commissioners. We'll start here on my left. Commissioner Skidmore,
No, I don't have anything.
Commissioner
I
Weigand,
have none.
Commissioner Crowley.
I have none.
Okay. Move on to reports by mayor. I have nothing further to add other than the comments. Today is our joint city-county USD 290 luncheon at 12 p.m. at the county annex. And then our next study session will be on Monday. And would like to remind everybody that the National Night Out picnics will occur on August the 1st. Is there anything further that should come before this meeting this evening? Hearing none, we'll call it adjourned. Very good.